Hello everybody, welcome back to FDE. This was an awesome week. This was a real barn buster, to be honest with you. So the Hoosier Great Plains Predator Series came back through. This is their second time through in KC on their traveling series. So it brought a lot of competition. There was a total of 18 of us this week. So again, definitely had my work cut out for me, but walked away with an amazing third place finish. So we got this from KC Raceway, and then the tiniest, littlest, smallest, third placest trophy ever. But hey, I can't complain. Through everything that happened that I'm about to talk about, it's amazing that we ended up getting this. So let's dive into it and get started. So Heat 1 was overall a lot of fun, actually. It was a really great heat that let me know where I was going to stand for the rest of the day. They split us into two groups, basically, A group and B group. It was a random choice on where they ended up. It was just how they did it. I was in A group, and just like the last three races, it seems like for whatever reason, I am just bound determined to start on the outside pole. So right out of the gate, I was starting in the front out of, I think there was 8 or 10 of us in this group. But of course, I pole pick outside. So there's 2 lanes of us on the outside lane up at the front. Now, what's interesting is the kart that was next to me, number 55, I remember him from the last race, and him and I had some fun battles going back and forth, and so it was really cool to see him again, talk to him, and meet up with him. But it was really neat to also race against him right out of the gate. Now, first and foremost, the track was awesome. Big kudos to KC Raceway for getting the track the way that it was. It was a 2.5 lane track, and I knew that after seeing it and walking it a little bit. So I was actually comfortable starting in that second position on the outside when the green flag dropped, because I knew that the inside line was just as good as the outside line and a little bit beyond. So when we came to the line, I knew right away I wasn't just going to back off, let him take the lead and try to get the inside groove, because I knew that it would hold on the outside. And I was going to give him a run for his money. I was going to make him earn it, and I absolutely did. When we were going side by side, it's cool to watch. I mean, we're taking the turns side by side, just like racing should be. And it was a really fun race. Unfortunately had a caution where I ended up in, a bad position, but it got worked out, started the restart, and ended up getting first in the heat, which, as I've told you before, if you progress, you get points, and then that determines where you start in the feature. So pretty cut and dry. Take a look, see you in a little bit. Heat 2 was where the night kind of went downhill for a little bit. With these treads and with these Hoosiers, like you've seen in the past and like I've experienced in the past, if you catch a tire, you're gonna send the kart, and it happened on this one. But this was probably the worst it's been all season to this date. So at the beginning of the heat, I start invert of where I was. So if I'm at the front, then I start at the back, inverse where everybody's at. I'm rolling along, doing it great, and then came in hot on, I think what was the 11 kart, and got up onto him. But this time I got so far up on him, I think I got a bump from the back as well, but my tire shoved way far into the front of his left rear, to the point where, and I'll show you some of the footage, we had to get out and basically jack the karts up to a V and just crank on his left rear tire to roll mine back out. I mean, it was stuck. It was as stuck as I've ever seen a kart. And even some of the guys were like, that's insane. That's crazy that it got to the point of where it was. And once we got everything untangled, we started to do our practice laps, and I could tell right away that something was wrong. I didn't know how serious it was, I didn't know how bad it was, but something was wrong. And the reason I knew that is because as soon as we started going, everybody took off, and I just seemed sluggish and slower, as if I had a weight behind me or if I was pushing something in front of me. And it turns out I was pushing something. So the front right tire was basically, instead of angled straight, it was aimed inside. So as I was going straight, I was just pushing this tire along the whole time. And what happened is during the wreck, my front right spindle bent. And unfortunately that kinked everything up, turned everything incorrectly, but I had to finish the heat. And what's interesting about it is that with a slow kart, times and RPM targets that I wasn't even trying to hit, I was still able to keep up with the pack and actually pass a guy or two during the rest of it, which, I mean, speaks for itself. But once it got done, I knew something was wrong. And unfortunately, you know, I didn't gain any positions. I think I actually ended up losing a position. So I'll let you take a look at the footage and we'll come back and talk about that before the feature.
Roll the back one.
Keep going. Keep going. We can stand this fucking thing up. There we are. That was the tightest. Woo! Like that, leave it.
So as you saw, it was a bit of a mess. After the heat, we ran back to the pits and had to diagnose what the heck was going on. So there was a guy from Nebraska that came down, and I'm so happy he came down. He's a really nice guy. He came over because we saw what had happened, and he helped us kind of assess what was going on. And I told him, I said, you know, my front spindle is bent up. We need to bend that thing back down, but I don't have a torch. He said, well, I got a torch. So he went and got a torch, came back, and the cart's sitting on the stand, and my buddy Spencer that's there, and a huge thanks to Spencer for helping out on this. He was standing on the cart stand in the seat. So luckily nothing fell over. But basically, so I held the torch on the spindle, and he was getting ready to basically step on it. It was kind of a, you either get this right or you have to go back the opposite direction and then hope that it doesn't break. So I'm heating on the metal, and finally I tell Spencer, I'm like, all right, step. And so he stepped and it came down and it wasn't level enough. So I said just a little bit more. So he stepped on it a little bit more until the point where I was like, stop. And to me, eyelining it, I mean, it was strictly just a sight thing. We had nothing to align this. I was like, all right, that's good enough. It is what it is. So he got out of the cart and we looked at it, and the front right tire was still towed in a little bit. And we needed zero toe, basically. So we loosened up the tie rod and pulled the tie rod in basically to the point where it couldn't go any further, being pulled in, trying to get that tire to come straight. So we pulled it all the way in, locked it down, put it down on the ground. I sat on it. Spencer pushed me just to see if it would roll straight. I mean, that's all you could really do. And it rolled straight enough, I would say, to where I was like, all right, that's all we can do. I went back and I reviewed the notes from previous times of the track set up like this, adjusted tire pressures to the way that it was. So when it came to feature time, this is where we were sitting. So with making the gain in the first heat and then falling back in the second heat, it stuck me again on outside pole. I started 6th place in the feature out of 18 karts. Now, in the back of my mind, I'm a little heartbroken because of all the success that we made up to this point, and even of that day. Now we're taking a bent kart into a feature, and I have no idea how it's going to do. I'm basically praying that this is going to work. And I knew I was going to find out within the first lap and a half, whether or not this was going to be a struggle the entire race, or I might have something to work with here. So we go out, we're doing our warm-up laps, and I'm throwing the kart up and down just to see if I can get any feeling out of it. Can't really get a feeling without racing, being full speed, to see if the car will hold or not. So I did what I could. So the green flag dropped, we came around, I got the jump on the inside, guy that was on the inside, so luckily I was able to take 5th, come on down to the single line of where it turned. Right in that first turn into 1 and 2, I caught 5th and ended up passing him on the inside, which stuck me into 4th. Going into 3 and 4, coming out of 3 and 4, I was on the person in front of me's butt, number 11 again. And it was at that point, my whole mentality changed of like, oh shoot, to oh shoot, like, yes, like we can absolutely do this. This car is gonna hold. Like, I, in my mind, was laughing so hard because this was a line of sight, send it opportunity, and it's working. So I was like, okay, let's do this, let's roll. And just kept on 11, and finally found out where I could get them. I stuck my nose in, but I realized that my nose was further in, that I wasn't going to catch his tire. And to me, that's a good enough spot to be to kind of get yourself in there and make a position. So I did, and then after that, it was smooth rolling around the track, just trying to catch 1 and 2. Well, by the time I got past 11, 1 and 2 had scooted on far enough ahead that there really wasn't anything I could do besides just hold and maintain. So then we had our first caution, and I ended up, starting in 3rd, and Mike came by and said that we've got 4 laps to go. In my mind, I'm thinking 4 laps, I could get 2nd. I could totally get this. So the green flag drops, and something that was told to me from a previous racer that pointed out my driving style is that I switched modes. I switched from race mode to chase mode. And after watching the footage and hearing about what it entails, I totally agree. When I watched the footage, I stopped following my lines. And instead, I was so focused on the person in front of me and trying to be a little bit lower in the track because you're just in this mode of chasing them that you forget your lines and you're not paying attention. Unfortunately, it made me just a tad bit slower. We come around on 4 laps to go. something wasn't right. I guess they threw another caution. We had finished a lap though, so now we're stopped and we're starting again. Now Mike says we got 3 laps to go. I'm like, oh man, 3 laps to figure this out. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna see what I can do. And once the green flag dropped, I mean, 1, 2, and 3 were fast karts. They were. We were fast karts. 1 was a great kart. 2nd was a, I would say, great kart. 3rd was a bent chassis trying to hold everybody off and make good positioning. That would be me. That was this guy. But no, the kart did absolutely great. And by the time the 2nd lap down to last lap, I just was like, you know what, 3rd place with everything considered is going to be absolutely phenomenally awesome. So I took the 3rd place and I was absolutely ecstatic, absolutely pumped that we went from heat 2 where I couldn't catch anybody or really pass anybody and I knew I was in trouble, to starting 6th in the feature and pulling out a 3rd place win with a fast kart. Even looking at the times, the kart was fast, bent. So I know the common saying is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I'm not really sure what the saying is. If it's broke and it's still the same or better, leave it? I don't know. I'm not really sure how that phrase goes. But either way, the kart's in the shop right now. Hopefully they can figure out what else is wrong with it. But all in all, was super, super happy with the way the night ended. Not how the day went, but how it ended. Super fun time. Looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season goes. And yeah, we'll go from there. See you guys later.